see. Anyone there? Can anyone hear? I think there's some delay. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to send out an invite link to actually join here so you can shoot your video here. So that is going out now. Join the Hangout. Okay, cool. So I just sent out another link over Remind that should have a link to actually join the Hangout. Okay, cool. Okay, waiting for people to join the Hangout. Let's see. If you guys look on Remind, you'll see the link to actually join the Hangout. Please open that link. Okay, looks like we have 5 people. I'm reading the live chat, but I think there's a bit of a delay. If you guys are having some trouble joining, be sure to send a message so I can see what might be wrong. Okay, I see Tanvi here.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Good to see you. And I see Pranav here as well.
Okay.
I think I did something wrong.
All right.
See you guys. So you did something right as well, at the least. Okay. So let's start. Is there any concept that you guys had any trouble with? Anything that you guys found sort of confusing or don't think you have like a full grasp on? Oh, see you as well, Priyanka.
No, I do not have any questions.
Okay, so do you guys have like a bunch of questions ready?
So
No. Not at this exact minute. Questions.
Okay, you don't even have full-on questions ready. If you guys want, I can like re-explain a concept that we covered in class, or go in depth with something. I don't know what you guys want to talk about. Okay, I'm getting a bunch of
I'm having
feedback
trouble
from-
hearing you guys.
Yeah, I'm getting okay. I was getting a bunch of feedback till now from one of you guys. Can you hear okay now?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's better.
Okay, cool. Hold on. Let me actually turn up the gain on my microphone a bit. Okay. Is that a bit better?
Yes.
Okay, cool, awesome. I can hear you guys just fine as well. Okay, so the way that I'm thinking about doing these office hours is that if you guys have any particular questions, we can totally go through those. If you guys want me to explain a concept, we can go through those as well. So there's like the two things
There's
that
an echo coming.
yeah, there are echoes.
There's a quite echo.
Okay. Do you guys know, are any of you guys, I'm not sure where it's coming from. It stopped for now. Do you guys still hear it?
I already said
Yeah,
because of the
it's
echo,
better,
I wasn't
better.
really able to understand it.
Okay, how about now?
There we go.
Okay, cool. Good to hear. Okay, so the way that I'm thinking of running these office hours are that if you guys have any particular questions with code, you can send me some code and we can take a look at it. If you guys have confusion over any particular topic, we can take a look at that as well. I can re-explain things for you, or we can go in depth into things. So a little bit of housekeeping stuff. The way that I want you guys to be able to send me your code is there's a website called pastebin.com. I'm gonna do a screen share really quick, okay? Let me know if you guys can still see.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see.
All right, Radical, can you guys see my screen? Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. Okay. Cool. Can you guys see my screen? You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a website called Pastebin. This is what a lot of programmers use to share their code with one another. The way that this works is that you copy your code from Eclipse or wherever else, and you can just paste it into here. Then you can choose which language it is. Here we're going to do obviously Java. And then you can give it an expiration so that it's only valid for a little while. You can choose whether this should be public or whether it should only be shareable by link. You can give it a name if you'd like, and then you can create it. What this does is it gives you a link to your code, which is really nice. So let's say that I have some Java code that I write up, right? I just have, I don't know, public static void. I see that. All right, hey guys, I'm going to ask you guys that you mute I'm going to mute you guys, and
All
then
right.
you unmute yourself when you want to say something. That way we won't have the echo problem, okay?
Okay.
So if you have any question or something, or when you want to say something, then go ahead and unmute yourself and say something. Think of it like a walkie-talkie, okay?
Share their code with one another. The way this works.
Okay. All right. All right. Do you guys see that? Cool. So you guys can also type into the chat window in Google Hangouts. You can see on the side there's chat, and so you can type stuff there, and I can read it as well. So chat. You guys see the message I sent over chat? Just reply over chat if you can see it. Oh, yo, Ariel, could you grab the hey? Just get the door. It's the Amazon's at the door. Grab it. Yeah. Okay. So okay, cool. So you guys can see that. So I'm broadcasting here, and I'm going to share my screen. You guys can either, if you guys have like a vocal question that you want to explain, you can unmute and you can talk. Otherwise, feel free to reply to stuff in the chat here. So the first thing is that in order for me to be able to see your code, instead of having to do a screen share every time, what you can do instead is paste your code into a pastebin file and then send us a link to that pastebin file. So I'm sharing my screen again. So here's pastebin. I just went to pastebin.com. I added some code here into a new paste. This doesn't have to be a full program. This is just a snippet of code. This can be one method. It can be a couple lines. It can just be some variable declarations. It can really be whatever. Okay. But now I say Java. I can give it a name. I'm going to not do that now. I click save, and look at that. Now I've got this nice, neat, formatted, color-coded bit of code here. So I'm going to take that link, and I'm going to send it off. So I'm actually going to send that to you guys. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that in the group chat.
Okay.
Okay. So now try to open that, guys, and see if you can see that little bit of code that I wrote there. If you see it, just comment in the chat that you've seen it.
And then send us a link to that pastebin file. So share my screen again. So here's pastebin. I just from pastebin.com. I added some code here into a new page. This doesn't have to be.
Cool. So the idea here is that if you guys have some code that you're working on, you can paste it over here, and then we can all see your code, and I can explain it while screen sharing. I think because of differences in connection speed, some of us are slower and some of us are kind of more close to real time. So does anyone have any questions to start off with that they had any trouble with or that they want any more explanation about? You can either unmute yourselves and talk, or you can type it into the group chat.
ORDKY small t O. Right?
Oh, I put the link in the Hangouts chat. I put it in the other one as well.
Oh, okay.
Create a separate one right there. Okay. Okay, cool. Do you guys see that there? Radical. Okay. So that's how I want you guys to go. I want you guys to be able to paste your code in there if you have trouble with it, and then send me that link. This is kind of good etiquette when you're asking for help with programming problems, This is how a lot of university students send their code to each other so that they can comment on it or they can look at it. So this is a really easy, simple, quick tool you can use. You just copy your code, you paste it, you send them the link, and it works a lot like Google Docs. Okay, so if you guys have trouble with the code that you're writing, just put it into a paste bin, and you can send me the link, send us the link here, and everyone else can look at your code on their own computers, and we can present it here and look for a solution. Okay. All right, so how should we get started, guys? Does anyone have a question that they'd like answered or any particular problem they had trouble with? Anyone? Did you guys perfectly understand everything in class?
Oh yeah, so it's not about class, but for paste bin to put code in it and share it with someone, do you have to put it on public mode or can you put it on the mode?
Yeah, you don't have to make it public. You can make it unlisted. What that means is that you can only get to that with using the link. So only if you give someone the link, then they can access it. So it's not technically public. Like not anyone can just stumble upon it or search for it. But if they have the link, then they can access it without having to log in. So yeah, you can make it unlisted and send someone the link instead of making it public. That's a good question. Okay, so Tanvi, it seems like you had a question from last class about code. So was that fully answered, or do you have more that you'd like to talk about? Could you repeat the question that you had?
Yeah.
Sure.
APCS, so
So what was it? Did you forget the question?
oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So took me a while there. So it was from last class. It was for lab 3,
Okay.
and it was related to my calculation. So it was so I had different variables. So and then it was got complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I still have my code. I'm just trying to get to it.
Your code, and then we can take a look at it.
Yeah, it's gonna take me a while. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries.
Okay.
If any of you
There we
other
are.
people, students have other questions, you can take time to get them prepared as well, so that when we're done with this one, you guys can jump into yours. Okay.
So I printed it. So this was the. I pasted it down, I guess.
Okay. Let's see. I am looking for the link. I don't see it just yet, but I'm looking.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Okay. Sure. You guys all back to school now?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Nice, nice. That's good. I started school too. Today is the 3rd day of class. So that's fun.
So one more time. So how do I okay, yeah, I got it. I was supposed to post it, except post that. Oh, no, it did something else.
So just paste it into Pastebin, and then
Yeah.
it'll give you a link to share. So just take the link at the top, like it says in Chrome, the link pastebin.com/whatever, and just
It
send that.
actually doesn't say it needs slashes right now, so.
Oh, if it says pastebin.com, then you've got to actually write in your code, and then scroll down, set the language to Java, and then you have to click submit there.
Oh, okay, so.
Click create new paste down there. Here, I think I can screen share and show you guys. Here, see that?
All right. Yeah. Create new paste. There we are. So
Okay.
I will get the link. I'll post a link on the chat.
Yeah, wonderful.
All right, there we go.
Okay, there we go. I see that. All right, so let's open this up. And Pranav, no, you don't have to sign up for Pastebin, really. You might sign up if you want to organize the things that you paste, or if you want to make them private and share it with just friends. Otherwise, you don't really need to sign up for Pastebin. Okay, let's take a look here. So we've got public class Fahrenheit. That's fine. We have our main method. And the main method is just printing out the temperature in Celsius is. So that's all we're doing. So if we run the program, all it will do is it'll print out the temp in Celsius is. Okay.
Oh yeah,
So,
and my
yeah.
thing, it keeps saying terminated. And it
Okay,
would
the
say
reason for that-
terminated code.
That's right. It's not terminated code. What it's saying is that it terminated just means that it ran the program and the program's done running, as in like the
Oh, okay.
program has been closed. And yeah, that happens once it's done running lines. Notice that the main method, remember, is the place that the code actually starts. And
Oh,
so
okay.
since the main method is done, all it does is print, right? When it prints, it's done. After this point, your program gets terminated because it's over. So this part is what the code actually does. If you write other methods, if you're not using those methods somewhere in here, they won't actually run. So
Oh.
in order to actually make your code, this method run, you've got to use it somewhere in here. But anyways, let's move on for a second, okay? So we've got this double called far into Celsius. We've got double step 1 equals 32, double step 2 equals 5, double step 3 equals 9, and then we have empty double Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that wasn't actually
Okay.
there in the code, so.
Okay. And then here we see we've got Celsius, so we got the difference multiplied, step 2 over step 3. So you're just taking the numbers, storing them in the variables, and here you're returning Celsius. That's good. One thing though, return actually is not a function or a method. Return is actually a keyword. So you do return, then a space, and then whatever you want to return.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep, don't worry. Yeah. So basically, return is a keyword, and it's not actually a method. Okay, and then down here we just have some comments, and that makes sense. Okay, so in order to fix this, here's what we're gonna do. Oh, what's up?
I've also seen that return can also work like a method. Like you can put parentheses and it still works.
It works, but the reason that works is that it's basically saying like, oh, it's return, and then it's like saying return space and Celsius with parentheses around it. It's return, and then it's just evaluating the expression. These parentheses are actually working the way parentheses would work in an expression, not actually the way they would work for a method.
Okay.
So it works, but it works because Java is just okay with empty parentheses for no reason around things, not because it's actually using it like a method.
Should it be putting the parentheses then in any of our return values?
Say that again?
We shouldn't be putting parentheses then for any of our return values?
You can. I mean, but the main thing here is that the way to use return without a space after the n makes it seem like you think it's a method call. Now, I usually actually do, if I'm working with a bunch of mathematics, I actually do usually put parentheses around my return value, but that's only because I might have to do some additional mathematics. Like I might be returning something times something divided by something else. And in those cases, parentheses are useful because it makes it really clear what your expression is. But if you have one variable at the end, like here, we just got the Celsius variable, there's no need to put parentheses around here because that's all you're returning, just Celsius, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. There are a bunch of ways that we can actually run this. I can just open Eclipse. So I'm just gonna open up Eclipse.
Oh, and so for what for my the Eclipse, it's telling me that my Fahrenheit, it can't. It's it's unreachable code. For the Fahrenheit
Right.
line, Fahrenheit equals Celsius
Here, yeah.
multiplied
Yeah, I
by
see that.
Yeah.
Yes. So here's the reason why that is, okay? When in Java and in most other languages, when you return a value, like this return statement right here, returning is what you do at the very end of your method. After you return, the function is done. The method is done.
Okay.
So a return statement basically ends your function. If
So
you
I
return,
have
that means the function's done.
So practically, so I have to add. So do I have to actually add another method? Like
Yeah. Celsius to
and
Fahrenheit.
then put that line down, or
Yeah. Because remember, this method here is doing one thing. It's called Fahrenheit to Celsius. So you want to take the Fahrenheit and turn it into Celsius. And then for the other one, you have a separate method, which would probably be Celsius to Fahrenheit. So this would actually probably be in a separate method altogether. So I'm going to open up this code in Eclipse, and then we'll take a good look at it, okay? So I'm just going to close whatever this junk was that I had open. I'll just make a new Java project. And all the office hours stuff that we do, guys, I'm going to put right here. I'm going to put them in this project, and then later on, I'm going to upload this project so that we can all take a look at it. If I remember correctly, it should also actually record this session, and then this session will actually be there for you guys to look at later on. So all the stuff that we're doing right now will hopefully, if everything works right, will be recorded so you guys can actually look at it later. So it's a really good idea for you guys to actually ask questions here. So I'm just going to call this APCS Office Hours 1. That's a pretty big name. That's okay. Okay. So I'm just going to create a class. We'll call this question 1. Main method. Okay. So here's the code that I generated here. I'm just going to take Tanvi's code from here, copy it, just paste it right there. I'm going to pick all this other code here, and I'm also going to copy this and paste it in as well. It should be the class, and I think this is missing a. Okay, there we go. Does this look about right, Tanvi?
yeah, except for the it's commented out that part. So.
That's right. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. So the first thing is that you were talking about having a bunch of variables. We actually don't need to have every single number inside of a variable. Notice that in this step right here, we're actually using those numbers all at once, right?
Yeah.
So we're not actually using the same numbers in several places. Variables are very useful when we want to use the same data over and over. But notice that numbers like 23, 32, 5, 9 are only really being used once. So what we can do is just use the numbers themselves. Those are called the literal integer values. We can just literally use them in one line instead of putting them into separate variables. Variables are important for when you need to modify specific data later on and change the value as you use them. We don't really need that to do that for here. So here, Fahrenheit to Celsius 23. Was this supposed to be the Fahrenheit value?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
I believe so.
So the
And
first thing
also-
here is that, go ahead.
Yeah. So if I were to leave the numbers there, and if I were going to use it again, so can I like call them out of that method? Like, if I were to make another method, would I be able to call those methods? I mean, call those variables from a different method.
That's a very good question, and the answer is no. You wouldn't be able to.
Oh,
The
okay.
reason for that is that, so here's a little bit more about how Java stores variables. When you start a method, it creates its own little box, and that box is where it can store stuff inside of it. It also has access to all the stuff inside of the class, okay? So if I were to create a variable here, double outside variable, right? I can access that outside variable from inside of here. I can do outside variable, outside var rather, plus plus. And that's perfectly static. It has to be static. That's perfectly fine. The reason for that is that this method is inside of the class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. However, if we're in a separate method, that method is not inside of this method, so we wouldn't be able to access these variables. So when you create a variable like this inside of the method, it's available to everything inside of that scope, we call it, inside of that scope, the scope of the method. If you declare something inside of the class, it's available to everything inside of that class. Does that make sense? Hello? I can barely hear you guys. Could you speak up a bit? Hey guys, you there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My microphone.
Cool. Gotcha. Okay, everyone kind of went silent there. So what we're going to do here is, if we wanted to use these numbers elsewhere, we can declare them outside here and then set their values inside of the main method. That would be the easiest way to do it. But because we're only using them twice in our code, we really can just hard code them. And that's totally fine.
So if I want to call the double Celsius, except I have to create, so I want these Celsius, right? So I want to call it into a different method. Is there a way that I could do that or no?
Oh, definitely. The idea is that you've got to put it somewhere accessible. So let's say this double Celsius, you could put it inside of the class. And if both methods are in the same class, they'll both have access to it.
Okay.
So that's how that works, okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so let's start working with some of this stuff. So the first thing is we can put these numbers in here. So step 1 is 32, so I'm really just going to put 32 in there. 32. Step 2 is 5, so I'm going to put 5 right there. Step 3 is 9, I'm just going to put 9 right there. We don't really lose very much by putting these, by getting rid of those variables. Because the whole thing is going to work, because it's part of a formula, you're never really going to need to change that 32, 5, or 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's why. Again, you start with, so one thing is that you're defining your 23 here. And if I remember, this is actually the variable, this is actually your Fahrenheit value, right?
Yes.
Now, if you wanted to do this conversion for a different value, what would you have to do? If you wanted to start with a different Fahrenheit value?
Well, you're going to have to go back into the code and type it out, right?
That's right, but you're going to have to type it out inside of the method. You're going to have to type it out inside of the instructions. That's kind of like having a bottle opener that you're going to have to modify for every single bottle that it opens. It's not very like modular. So what we need to do actually is the point of the having like a method like this is that we don't have to hard code everything inside of our method body. Instead, what we do is we can take the Fahrenheit value into this method. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put double Fahrenheit.
What would happen? So what does this part that's the part of the code that says double Fahrenheit to Celsius minus 20?
Sorry, Pranav, you cut out there. This part of the code right here is what actually performs that conversion. This is the formula. This is the formula for converting a Fahrenheit value into a Celsius value. You there, Pranav? Yo, any better? Okay.
What does line 13 do in this code?
Line 13. Okay, line 13 right now is how she was declaring the Fahrenheit value. So what I'm doing now is I'm showing how you actually don't need to put this here. So we're going to get rid of this, okay? If we want to do 23, we don't do it inside of here. What we do is when we call the method, and we're going to change to foreign. We can call the method here. So if I call, and I'm also going to change, I'm also going to fix the name. It's actually foreign. It's F-A-H-R-E-N. So I'm just going to call foreign to Celsius. And I'm going to put a number in here like 12.5. So what happens now is that if this is using the method, okay? This is not defining it, this is using it. So what I'm doing is I'm putting 12.5 in the parentheses. When I run this line, what it does is it brings up this code. In Java's imagination, it brings up this code, and it says, okay, double foreign equals 12.5. So it'll declare that this variable here equals whatever you put there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, but I was just asking what that specific line of code was.
Oh, before that was her way of declaring the Fahrenheit value that was going to be converted.
Okay.
Yep. But now we don't need to put that there because we're getting it in through the method. So now we can actually run this several times with different values. See that? Now we can run it for different values, and each time this runs, it runs this code several times. So if we have this line happening 4 times, that means that this code gets run 4 times. But each time it gets run, it sets this parameter variable to whatever the argument here was, okay?
Okay.
So the first time it runs, double foreign equals this. So basically, that's where variables become very useful, because each time you run this code, it acts a little bit differently because you gave it a different input, right?
Yeah. Got it.
So that's the first thing, okay? So now we've got foreign coming in from here. So we want to calculate what Celsius is. I'm also going to comment this out for now. But this code does a perfectly good job of doing the conversion, if the formula is right. I'm not checking the formula, but what this does now is you take in a double called foreign, you run some calculations, and you return the value of Celsius, okay? And now if I run this here, it'll actually give me the value. So if I'm going to actually, since you can't see these, you can't actually see this if I just put it there. I'm actually going to put this at the end here. It's like that. Now I'm going to make this print line so they show up in different lines. Reprint line. And I'm going to do this a couple times for different values. Right, so in 12.5, 1 of the 3, 25, and 70. Okay, so now if I run this, this code now calls Fahrenheit to Celsius. This calling is what makes this code runs. If I wasn't calling Fahrenheit to Celsius, if I wasn't typing it out like this here, if I didn't have something like this code down here would never run. The reason Java even looks at this code is because we're telling it to use this method. So this is using the method, right? Giving the name and then putting the values here that get matched to here. And this is defining the method. So I'm going to run this. There we go. And it happens 4 times. See that?
Yeah.
So we typed in the Fahrenheit values and it gave us Celsius values. So let's type in 0 for the first one, so 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and let's see how much that is. And that is -17. All right. So now we actually do, you're right, this code won't run because this isn't what we're trying to do. We wanted to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Now, here's another really quick thing. You don't even really need to put it in a separate variable. Okay? All you need is this value here. Right here, you made a variable, you put it here, and you return that variable. Let me show you something that's quicker, but that's just as valid. You could actually take this value here, read all of this, and return literally just that expression. You could say, return all of that.
Oh, okay.
And here's where I would actually put parentheses, just so I'm like really clear about what my expression is. See that?
Yes, I got it.
So this code is perfectly valid, and this is like a quicker way of writing it. And it's pretty simple, you know? It's pretty simple. Look at that. Look at that. That's a 3-line function right there. Takes a value in, returns basically, this is basically f of x, and then equals all of this. Isn't that great?
Wow. All right.
And it's super simple to go the other way as well. So if we were going to write out a method for Celsius to Fahrenheit, do you think you could give me the code for that now, Tanvi?
Yeah. Do you want me to
Go
just
ahead,
say
I'll
it
type
or?
That's right. Say it and then I'll type it out for you.
All right. Public static double Celsius to Fahrenheit.
All right.
And then, oh wait, we would outside the class we would have to actually make another variable, right?
This is not the class, it's the name of the method.
Or the
Yep. We're going to type in the parameter list, which is this right here.
okay.
So what am I going to put in those parentheses?
Double Celsius.
All right, cool. And what now?
And then you could
This is a
just
method
say,
header, so I can't leave it like that.
yep, and then you're gonna need to close the bracket.
So open, close brackets, just like that.
Yep.
All right.
And then
how do we do this now?
then I would just say return open close brackets.
Yep.
Celsius inside the bracket Celsius plus 32 multiplied, and then outside of that it will be multiplied by 9 and divide by 5.
There we go. All right, and semicolon at the end. Sweet. So now what we can do is let's make this last one temperature in Fahrenheit. It's a funny word, Fahrenheit. It's I say Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit, or whatever, but it has an H in it. So we'll make this Celsius to Fahren. And now if we run this, the last one, we'll say that. There we go. See that? Let's change it to 0. 0 is the only one that I really remember. That and like, that's, yeah.
Okay, so
Let's see. Is this about right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I
So
don't
that
really.
is 0.
So I didn't really need to state a double or foreign and then a double Celsius outside the methods. I just had to just write it into the bracket.
That's right. That's right. Because you want to take it in, right? That's the way that a method works. You give the method some data, and this data, it will temporarily be the value of this parameter, the time that this runs. That's why they're useful, because you can run them over and over again with different input and get different output. Do you see how they're like a tool?
Yeah.
Think of it like a factory, right?
I see a problem. So
What's up?
it's supposed to be 32 degrees, right? Fahrenheit.
That's right. Right. That's right. That is
I
what.
think I see the problem.
What's the problem then?
So first you have to divide the Celsius by 5, then multiply by 9, then add 32.
No wonder why.
Like that. So let's try that out then. So let's put that there. Right? And let's do the same thing over here.
No, there it stays the same, but then.
All right. Let's try it out now. Look at that. Let's do 20.
Okay, that makes sense.
20 degrees is scientifically supposed to be around like room temperature. There we go. That's a good little trick. I was waiting for someone to find that out. All right, cool. So now we've got that. So does that answer your question, Tanvi?
Yeah.
Cool.
That better explain.
Awesome. So so hopefully you understand a little bit more about how to use a method and why we write methods. We write methods so that we can do this work really quickly. Instead of having this expression over and over again here, we just passed in 0 and it ran this expression for us with those variables set. So that's one really useful way that we use methods in programming. Okay, guys?
Got it.
All right. So Priyanshi says that you haven't gotten to some of the lab questions, but you didn't quite understand the user input stuff. So let's move on to that. Is Priyanshi here? Or I think she was having trouble.
No, I'm here. I'm just in my brother's room now.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. That's weird. I don't even see you in the chat thing.
Yeah, I'm with my brother because.
Oh, you're in front of. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to work with user input now, and we're going to review that. All right. So I'm just going to call this question 2.
Okay.
New class. You can also do this from up here. So new class can be done from up here. This will be question 2. I'm going to make a main method in there. Really quickly for you guys, here's a little trick. If you have multiple classes inside of Eclipse, so long as they have a main method, this green button will run it just fine. So you can run this now, notice nothing happens. You can run this here, nothing happens. But the important thing is that they're inside of a package inside of the source folder.
Okay.
So you can definitely have multiple Java files inside the same package. In fact, maybe you want to have like a unit 1 package and put all the work for unit 1 here. And instead of making several projects, all you need to do is create a new Java file for each project. Make sure that there is a main method, and you can run those files independently. Okay?
Oh, and I have a really quick
All right.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let's say I want to call up my council and I accidentally X'd it out. So how exactly do I call it back up?
Whoops. Oh, well, sadly, that's how programmers end their careers. No, I'm kidding. So we want to go to Window, and we want to go to Show View, and Console's right there.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. It might be a little bit different on Windows, but there'll be some sort of window or view menu where you can find the console window. Yep, and I'll just open it right back up here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we're going to work with user input. Okay. So the way that we do user output, the way that we output to the user, we've done it a lot so far. Can someone tell me how we output stuff to the user?
So first, on the top of the whole class, you have to import java.io.
Not quite. I said, how do we output stuff to the user? Okay, thank you, Rakib. Have a nice day. So, how do we output stuff to the user? How have we been doing that so far?
We can use the print statement.
That's right. So we've been doing system.out.print, right, guys? Now, what we're going to do now for user input is we're going to use system.in. Okay, system.out has a print line, and that's how we send stuff out. However, to take things in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you have to add something before the whole class? Wouldn't you have to import
we're about
something?
To do. Yep.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. So the tool that we use to take user input is called the scanner. To use the scanner, we do indeed have to import Java scanner. So in Eclipse, in order to do that, you can literally just start typing out scanner, and it'll start asking, what do you mean by scanner? And you can import it like that. Ta-da! Now I've got that. So here's where we come to the idea of classes and objects. Okay, java.util.scanner is a class. That means that we can use that class to create a scanner. Remember we talked about how it's kind of like a stamp, and you can use the same stamp to make multiple like imprints.
Yeah.
So our stamp here is scanner. We're going to create an imprint of the scanner. Here's how we do that. We're going to create our very own scanner. I'm going to call it scanner input. And then I'm going to put a new scanner inside of it, basically. This is like an empty box that I can stamp into. And it's just the right size for a scanner. So I'm going to just say input equals new scanner. And then I'm going to say system.in. Okay? These are the 2 lines that you need in order to create your scanner. You can do it on 1 line even. You can just say scanner input equals new scanner. Do that way as well. Like that. Now what we do is this input has a bunch of methods that will actually return whatever the user typed in. So if I do input dot next line, what this does is it asks the user to type in a line of code, and when they're done with that line of code, this method returns whatever they typed. So right now it doesn't do anything with it. So if I type out some code, I'm going to do some printing here too, just so we know that it's working. System.out.println. Hello, say something, please. Now, if I run this, I'm also going to print something out right after it too, just so you know that like, oh, something actually did happen here. So just not out dot. That was delicious text. Okay. Now, if we run this, oh no, we have an error.
Semicolon.
Semicolon, not a colon. All right, say something. Ta-da! That's how you take user input. That's how you allow the user to type stuff in. Now, the problem is that we didn't actually get to store this anywhere. This is what the user typed in, and then we printed something right back out. But we didn't actually capture that information. So what we do is this. This next line method actually returns whatever this was. So if they type this stuff in, then this method returns that. If I typed in hello world, it would return hello world. So if we wanted to store something here, we can just put it inside a variable. We can say string users text equals input.next line. Now, whatever they type in here gets stored into my user's text string. That makes sense?
Yeah, that just answered the question that I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So we know how to ask the user to type stuff in, and now we know where to put that stuff. And now we can use that. Now we can do like system.out.println. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Plus users text dot what is it? Something dot. What's something fun we can do? Dot uppercase. Let's do that uppercase. So whatever we say, it'll say it back to us in uppercase, and then it'll say thank you. That was delicious text. So we're gonna type stuff in here. I'm gonna say, good afternoon, sir. May I have some porridge? There we go. So now we stored that. See, we stored this text. That became the value of user's text. And then notice we can use user's text just like any other string variable here. Okay?
Okay.
Yep. So that is how that works. So that's how we take user input. Now, another important thing to remember is that if you use next line, it'll basically turn it into a string. However, there are other things you can do. You can also say next integer, for example, or next double. So I can say input dot next. I can do double, for example. Now, not a string, but it actually returns me a double. And then it'll say, oh, you ate how many pizzas? And then I'll put that. I'll just put how many they said. And then I'll add some emotion. Some question marks. That seems like my current mood. Just some question marks. Say something, please. How many pizzas did you just eat? So how many pizzas did you just eat? So I'm going to say 124.886. Right? There we go. See that? Pizzas. There we go. So now it's taking in the double, and I can treat it as a double variable. I don't need to convert it. I don't need to do anything to it. It takes it in as a double. Let's say that we typed in something else here. We just typed in 11.2, 11.3. Then we get an error because we expect it to get in a double, but we got a big string. So that's why we get that error there.
I just had a question. I just forgot
What's
about it. If let's just say you are the user, if they it's kind of like a if else thing. So if you want the user to say a particular number or something, what exactly would you say?
You do something like this. Here's how I would do that. If I want to give the user some options, here's what you could do. I'm gonna redo this part. I'm just gonna say system.out.println. Welcome to the Pokemon Center. Oh, sorry, there's probably some copyright stuff on there. Welcome to the Mokipon Center. What would you like to do? Then you could say something like, to leave your Milky Pond here, type 1. And on the next line, I could say something like to pick up your Milky Pond, type 2. So here I've given the user some idea of what I'm expecting them to type. Then what I can do is actually take their input. So I can say user input equals input.nextInt, because I just want them to type 1 or 2. And this is an integer. Next, I can make an if statement here that says if user input 1, then do something. Else if user input equals 2, do something else. Else, which means they type in something invalid, do something else. So system.out.println.
The order will always be if, else, or if, else, if, and then else, right?
Right, that's how it works.
Okay.
Okay, so input 2 is what? Pick them up. Here you go, your Milky Pond are fully healed.
Okay, that's
Oh my, they really deserve some rest. Okay, see? So now I can type in a 1. Whoa, and that works. And now here, notice terminated, my program ended, because after this if statement, my program's over.
okay.
And then
So
run it again. This time I'll say E, and I'll get an error this time because it won't even go past here because it expected an integer, but I gave it a string. So that actually will throw an error. So you've got to handle those. But if I type in 2, that's still an integer. It says, oh, they're fully healed. And if I type in like 8, it'll say, oh, I don't know what you want me to do. Does that make sense, guys?
yeah. So what was my question? I just had it in a few seconds ago. All right. So let's say it's you want to add like for if the user put in like a 1, so and it would say, and then you want it to give another if else statement. How exactly would you do that?
It like asks them to do this again.
No, like so the program would say, oh my, they really deserve some rest, right? So
Right.
and then they'll say, and you, I don't know how I'm supposed to say this, I'm not into the Pokemon stuff, but let's say they want to, what do you want the Pokemon, I don't know.
I can do second
Okay.
input equals, I can ask them the next line, system.out.println.
Like what time do you want to pick?
Have they had their flu shots? Something
Yeah.
simple that's like yes or no. I have 1 for yes, 2 for no. Like that, right?
Oh, okay, so,
I'm just gonna do I'm just gonna make another variable here. Second input equals input next int again. And I'm just gonna have him say, we'll see if this works. And then
So
I'll
you
say
can
if.
add more stuff, like more ifs into like the more, like, you can just keep adding ifs and elses into other ifs and elses.
Yep, you can nest these as far as you'd like.
oh, okay. Yeah, that was my question.
Okay. Okay, that's the question. Okay, yeah, you can definitely nest them like that. And if they type in anything else, you should really get that checked out. Okay. So now if I type in 1, if this works properly, it asks me again, and I'll type in 2. There we go, see? And I'll try this again. If I type in 2, it'll just finish. But if I type in 1 and then 1 again, 1 and 1 again, there we go. See?
Okay.
So yes, you can definitely nest if statements. And you can actually make little text-based adventure games this way too.
Okay.
Okay,
Wait,
that,
if you have an if, you also have to have an
No, you definitely don't have to have an else. There's some points where you want to actually branch off. In this case, I want to do something very specific if it's not one. Like if it's 2 or if it's anything else, I want to do this. But
Okay.
if it's 1, I want to do the other thing. But no, you don't need an else. You
Okay,
don't
what
need an
would
else.
be
You
a
can just do an if.
scenario where I would only need an if?
If you're just checking something by the way, if whatever you're checking isn't going to change whatever you're going to do to everything else. Let's say that I'm writing a program that will tell me whether a number is even, but also if it's a multiple of 6.
Okay.
So if the number is a multiple of 6, I can say if whatever, but I do still want to move on and do whatever I would with everything else.
Oh,
If you use an if statement to check for a special case, rather than to branch out in your logic between two things, you just need an if. So if you're just checking something, you can use an if. If you're going to like go one way if it is and the other way if it isn't, then use if else.
okay, and you can use else if as many times as you want, right?
That's right. You can use else if as many times as you like. However, I would remember that if you find yourself making a lot of ifs and else ifs, like a long chain of them,
Mhm.
oftentimes what that means is that you haven't really thought out your code logic as well as you might need to. I know that growing up coding, that's what a lot of times happened to me. Whenever I'd have really messy if statements, usually that meant that there was some piece of my code that I wasn't doing right, that I wasn't really thinking about properly.
So can I like bunch so all these codes that we see and you have many that branch out, right?
Yeah.
So is there somehow you could just put take that code, put that in the outside of the method and then make them all like into a different method itself? The other
Yes,
ifs
actually,
that
you
is
definitely
sequence
could.
and bring
That's right. You could, but yeah, you definitely could. And that actually might be a really smart way of doing it. Like, let's say that instead of this part, I want to take this part right here, and I want to put this in its own method. I can definitely do that. So I'm going to actually do that right here. So I'm going to say, public static void, and we'll call this heal Pokemon. We don't need to take anything in. But if they do this, this is basically just a shortcut for this code now. I'm just going to put this there. And then instead of having to actually run this stuff, I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to say here, heal Pokemon. Now, the one problem here, though, is that remember that I'm using the scanner. Remember that this input scanner was declared up here inside of main.
Oh,
so if I
you're
put it
gonna
in a
have
separate
to.
method. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're gonna have to practically for every single one that you do, you're gonna have to put the scanner input for each and every single method, right?
Not quite. There's a better way of doing it. What we can do is move this scanner declaration up here so that both of the methods can see it. Now what happens, and I'm going to remove this, now what happens is that when the main method runs, it initializes the scanner and has to be static. It initializes the scanner, so it creates a new scanner here, but then when this one uses scanner, it's using the same one. So this here, this input here, and this input here are both referring to this input scanner. Okay?
So the scanner is used for user input, like how to put stuff in.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But it's important to note that the reason I can use it here without worrying is because I know that this heal Pokemon method will run definitely after I initialize the scanner. If I wasn't sure whether this line here would run before or after the code, then I might run into errors. But it's okay for me to use input inside of my heal Pokemon method because I'm certain that as soon as the main method runs, it'll be initialized and ready to go. All right?
Okay.
Yep.
For the user input stuff, you know how you were talking about how if they typed a non-integer, such as like they were just trolling us and they typed some characters in the code, it would be an error. How would we like make it so that they can type anything and it would still give some response to them?
So there are a few ways to go about that. One thing is that you could you could use a string as your input. You could do next line so that whatever they type in, it wouldn't throw an error there.
Okay.
But then you would have to figure out how to check whether that string is a valid integer or not. And if you tried to turn the integer into a string using integer.parse or whatever, then it wouldn't. Then at some point you would have to handle the error. So this goes into a topic called error handling. Since you three are dedicated enough to stay this far, I'll give you a little sneak peek. So the way that we do this is that when we're going to do something that might turn into an error, we can use a try catch statement. So what we're going to do is here, instead, when we do this, we know that running this method might give us an error, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is we're going to try doing this. We're going to say try, and then we're going to do try, and then we're going to catch. I'm going to say exception E. So I'm going to take this line, I'm going to put it in my try statement, and then I'm going to catch it here. Or I'm going to declare this up here so that it's not ruined there. Okay, and I'm going to say user input.
Oh, and the
Semicolon.
semicolon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what happens here? What does it say? May not have been initialized. We'll initialize it to. Oh, yeah. Well, we technically should put all this stuff inside that try statement. So we'll just do it that way then. Okay. So we're going to try doing this stuff. What this says, we're going to try doing this code, but if we run into an error, we're going to catch the error. But then we're going to move on. So this says that I know that this might result in an error. There's some, like if the user types in the wrong thing, this could lead to an error. But this way we can actually gracefully catch the error and move on. So I'm going to write another line of code here. Out that print line. Oh, that was exciting. Wasn't it? Okay. Now, I keep typing out the E there. So now what happens is that because we know there might be an error, we can type out our code inside of here to try to handle that error and fix things. And then we can move on. So this way, having something that can cause an error doesn't actually stop your program. So notice now we're going to try it. And now I'm just going to type in do. Check that out. See, it didn't move on. It didn't try doing any of this stuff. It tried doing that first line. It ran into an error, so it skipped to the catch block.
So now you can type
and it moved on.
again.
Yeah, so now we're going to try, and we're actually going to give it a valid value so that it won't get an error. And it works, see? But also, we'll put something here to say that there's an error. We can use system.out. What a horrible person you are, forcing an error upon a young, impressionable program. Impressionable. That's a comma. All right, now let's try this. Semicolon at the end as well. If you guys don't already, you should use the keyboard shortcuts. They will make you a coding ninja. Only noobs reach for their mouse more than twice in an hour. Okay, anyways, so I'm going to type random stuff. All right, there we go. See, this line of code ran because there was an error. But the user didn't even know that that error was there. Before, we didn't even put the print line there. So to the user, it seemed like the program was running just fine. So this allows the programmer to catch the errors and fix them so the user can keep on going. Or at the very least, tell the user what they need to do. So for example, in my catch statement, I could just tell the user that, oh, hey, that wasn't valid input. Could you type it again? And then they could actually try again.
Okay.
Yep, so this is how we catch errors. This is like way later on material, so you're going to learn about this way down the line. But yeah. All right, guys, looks like our time is about up. What did you guys think?
It's good. Next time I'll have more questions prepared. We didn't know what we're supposed to.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good, Dennis. That'll be great. That'll be great. Yeah, this was good. I'm hoping that Thursdays is a good time for people. I really don't mind doing it twice a week, really. I just got to get it okayed. So we'll see. All right, guys. Good having you guys here. Hope you guys learned something and enjoyed all that. Make sure to come by next week, and I look forward to seeing you guys in class.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye,
You
guys.
too.
Girls, take care.